Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership for TEPSA. Each week, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and have them come on and share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I'm thrilled this week to have my special guest, Casey VanEpps, on with me. Casey, tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
I am currently a principal at a primary school up in Western New York. I have the dream job. I get to work with kids every day, and I feel like a true superhero to them each and every day. So I started off as a teacher in the teaching fellowship, New York City Teaching Fellows out in Brooklyn. Again, a dream job, but I wasn't quite sure that I could develop a life out in the big city. I loved everything about New York City. The food was great. The fun was great. There was always something to do. However, I did learn at one point that I had to be a professional and had to think about my future. So I moved back where I grew up in Western New York, and I taught fifth grade for a while in an ICT model and had a dream partner. I learned so much from her. She was a veteran special ed teacher who just taught me everything that I know now. I worked under a building principal who never let me feel comfortable, which was intimidating and scary, all in the like. But it also challenged me to take risks and try new things each and every day. From there, I felt a little bit stale in the district that I was in, and I wanted just to keep going and challenge myself more. So I jumped to another district that was down the highway and scared once again. But again, taking a risk helped me feel confident in what I was doing. I then became an instructional coach for a year, and in a new district, I became the primary school principal.
Now, you mentioned several times in there taking that risk, being uncomfortable, trying new changes. Obviously, it seems like it's a natural thing for you to want to do that, but obviously it's absolutely terrifying as
Horrible.
well. How do you not let that fear of the change and the new and the different stop you from keep moving ahead on your path?
I think I had to do a lot of self-talk and think about what is my end goal. I don't really know what I want to end up doing one day. I'm still trying to figure out what adulting is. And in that, I recognize that I need to take that risk and take it one day at a time. Each and every day, I think about the kids that I'm working with. And if I'm not taking a risk, how do I expect them to take risks? And in those risks, I found many rewards. I found many failures. And I think those failures are what helped me recognize that those risks are worth taking.
Well, I love your perception and your honesty in that whole just being a kid and not even knowing what you want to do. I think sometimes, especially as we get older, even though we find a career we love, sometimes people act like, well, that's what you have to do the whole rest of your life. And it's like, no, I love this right now. I don't know if it's what I want to do forever. And so if you had another job outside of education, what would you be pursuing?
I would own my own food truck.
Really? What kind of food?
I want one half of it to be gourmet peanut butter and jelly, and then the other half to be really, really good beer.
You didn't say pizza or pasta. I was sure.
No, because I eat that all the time. So I think I want everybody else to enjoy a simple sandwich and a delicious drink.
That is awesome. So is cooking also something that's kind of a passion of yours?
It's has become a great way for me to kind of separate. I've always worked pretty far from where I live, and I think that drive home has helped me separate from kind of the stress of the day and all that baggage that you bring home. And finding things in the fridge and creating some crazy concoction is a gift that I got from my mom. She always made the most bizarre desserts at holidays, finding anything that she could, and strangely, some of them were delicious, and most of the time they were not. But from that, I again learned to take risks, and the cooking then is just something that helps me separate. And I've learned, kind of self-taught myself to find recipes and things that I can control. Because often in teaching, there are times when you feel like you don't have control. And in the kitchen, that's a place where it may taste awful, so you throw a little salt in, and it's good to go.
So what is your favorite thing to cook?
I don't bake because I don't like following recipes. They don't come out well, so I just let everybody else bake for me. I love to host my friends over for get-togethers, and I tell them do not bring anything other than dessert because I will not supply any of that. But I love to make really, really good grilled cheese with lots of toppings and macaroni and cheese. I also am pretty good with the grill and making a grilled pizza.
Interesting. I love it. So, I kind of want to jump back into something else that you were talking about a minute ago. Obviously, when you're in the midst of this change and you like taking risks and being different, how do you battle that beast of self-doubt that I know has got to creep in on you sometimes?
Um, uh, Gosh, it's self-talk for sure. I have to it's a you saying, but keep my eye on the prize and kind of think about all those people who have helped me along the way and provided me that moral support to continue pushing through and think about, although I may have it hard in this moment, there's not been anything that has overcome me enough that I haven't been able to keep going because I'm here now and I'm, living my dream, living my best life. And although right now may feel like the toughest moment, or I may feel as though I'm digging myself deeper into a hole, I will be able to pull myself out of it if I connect back in with some of my pedagogy and turn to friends and those people around me that can help me out.
I love that. Well, you're a school administrator now. And when we're school teachers, we carry a lot of the weight of our students, and we feel their fears and their struggles and their issues and their pain they bring. And when you become an administrator, you carry a whole nother level of weight because you're carrying the weight of now the whole school's worth of kids, but also the weight of your staff and the things they're going through and the families you hear about. How do you not let that emotion overwhelm you and stay grounded still?
Hmm. I laugh. I laugh a lot, and I read a lot. I read a lot about what other people are going through. I remain open with my communication and my feelings. I think one of the things that I'm so fortunate to have with the staff that I work with now is they're ready to build communication. I'm pretty new in this position there, and I walked into a position where the district is built on tradition and kind of what you say goes, and that's not how I work. I expect them to let me know how they're feeling if they don't agree with something, and if they question something, I let them know every single day. I'm not the guru. I don't have the answers, and that's been one of the hardest things for me to overcome as an administrator is I don't have the answers, and I'm not going to be able to fix it. And I hope that you all can recognize as my colleagues and my sidekicks that together is the only way that we can move forward.
I love that. Well, thinking about your own path and your own history, when you think of all the experiences you've been through in your life, what is one that comes to mind that you immediately think, because of this, that helped grow me into the man I am today?
I come from a large family. We have a very non-traditional upbringing. We low SES. We struggle to put food on the table sometimes, and we turn to each other for moral support and to laugh. My family continues to be my best friends to this day. And I think those situations that we had to overcome, the adversity that we had to face, really helped provide me with the courage to not give up. My parents continued to do the best that they could for us, but they also told us to not use them as the example. Although they were good examples, they said, "We know you can do much more," and they didn't let us stop. They said, "Keep going." I remember talking to my mom about after I didn't tell her I applied to the teaching fellows. I told her that I got in and that I was going to New York to get an apartment, and she freaked out, and she wasn't ready for that, but she freaked out in excitement. In the moment, it was because she was scared out of her mind because she didn't know what New York City was. But in chatting with me, she wanted to let me know that this is only the first step to many things that can happen. So I think many of the situations in my upbringing, overcoming those pieces that were really difficult for me. I didn't fit in. I loved school, and I had to find my place. And my place wasn't the star athlete right away. I had to work hard, and I had to have coaches there that helped me get through that. I wasn't the smartest in the class, but I had a skill set that I could use some music talent or some art talent to help me build confidence in myself. And when I was able to feel comfortable with myself, that was what helped me recognize that I can really do something good.
Right. Well, I love that because I'm sure that now plays into you as an educator, being able to help kids see that they may not always fit in, or they may not always know exactly where they belong in that moment, but there's somewhere for them as long as they have somebody to help guide them. I'm sure that that probably plays into a lot the way you interact with people now.
Absolutely. And I work now and with staff who we always talk about know your kid's story, much like you talk about. And so often we have the assumption that we know them because we grew up here or we've worked here for a while. But not often do we tell our own stories.
Right.
And I started doing that with some of my staff this year, and their reactions sometimes are eye-opening. They're shocked. They're surprised. They don't always recognize the things that I would be going through because I'm an administrator, so I shouldn't be going through those things in my personal life, or I shouldn't be having an upbringing like I had. I just connected with a staff member recently and shared a story about the holidays and how it was. I struggled with the idea of kids having to share gifts with each other because for me, it didn't go over well. We didn't have the money to buy gifts, and I was the one kid that didn't have a gift to bring to class.
Right.
So I took some candy canes off the Christmas tree, wrapped them up in a construction paper, and I remember the look on a classmate's face when he had to open those, and I was embarrassed. He was embarrassed, and I haven't been able to get over that situation. So I brought that story to my staff, and just not to change their mindset, not to persuade them in any way, but just to get them to recognize that even when we are faced with adversity, we can really overcome that. And that's what we hope our kids can do. We just have to give them those tools to be able to recognize that one day they can really be what they want to be.
Well, and I think you just shared a powerful reminder there that that's the power in us telling our stories. It's not necessarily with the sole purpose of changing somebody's mind, but it's to let them see our own experiences and take what they will from it. Do you find it difficult to be vulnerable in front of others, or is that something that's pretty natural for you?
It's not natural, but I put on a pretty good show, I think. I am not afraid to let somebody know when I'm not right, when I'm not confident, because there's no way that they will be confident around me,
Right.
Or be willing to take risks if they don't see me doing the same thing. So it's not a natural ability that I have. It's something that I continue to work on a daily basis, and sometimes I'm really bad at it. Sometimes I just say that I need to. This is not for me, and I need some help sometimes. And I think it just shows the human side of me.
I completely
agree. Or I hope
I
it shows the
love
human
it.
side of me.
I definitely agree. Well, Casey, one thing that I like to ask too is when you think of all the people who played a role into growing you outside of family, who's somebody that really played a big role in your life?
I had some coaches in school who I was overweight kid who joined the cross country team. Not a good thing to do in 7th grade. I had 2 left feet at the time. I couldn't afford the shoes that everyone had. And I had a couple coaches who made me feel like I was a part of the team. I moved a couple times growing up, so I was already kind of 3 steps outside of the social circle, and they did everything they could to help me feel confident in myself, to be willing to take risks socially, and and really care about myself as a person. And then as I just grew up, dealing with all the stresses of school and social relationships, and learning to really appreciate myself, they were there to support me, gave me the confidence through conversation and just listening. So I think those coaches played a huge role in helping me kind of recognize the power of communication. That's something that I continue to think about each day. How do I communicate effectively, and what more can I do to let my kids recognize that communication is important, my teachers, as well as my family?
That's awesome. Well, Casey, one of the questions I always love to end these conversations on is, what is one thing that you wish more people knew or understood? It doesn't have to be about education, but just in general, what's one thing you wish more people knew or understood?
That long live Mr. Rogers. He's got a lot to say. But in that, it's always possible to be kind. For me, that is something that I continue to share with my kids every day in the morning announcements, highlighting empathy in each and every one of them. We spend so much time and energy on thinking about all those things that keep us in the mud. And oftentimes that will hold us back from recognizing ways that others are being kind around us and to us. So I think that's a message that is applicable not only to education, but also just in the greater good of the world.
I love that. Well, Casey, I have just been inspired by your work in so many different ways. And I want to thank you for taking some time to come on and chat with me tonight and tell some of your story with my viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the time that you're taking to hear my story. I will send it back to you and let you know that you continue to inspire not only me, but my teachers at my school and so many others, helping us recognize that it's okay to play. It's such an important piece in education, no matter what level you're at. I work and have worked with teachers and administrators, and I bring it back all the time to, if we're not having fun, then why are we doing what we're doing? So I appreciate the support that you have and give there.
Thanks, Casey. And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Casey has inspired you to get out there and tell some of your story, because every story matters.